Welcome to the Tuesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Tuesday. Good afternoon. Speaking truth to power and the seriously hard thinking. I think the USA in the UN with Russia and Ukraine yesterday was revealing. I didn't see what happened. To be quite honest, I am not very good at foreign policy. I generally stay away from foreign policy because I'm not too familiar. Trump is not the only one who's seriously hard of thinking. Russia and Boris Johnson are up there with Trump. Well, hey Skiddadeer, how's it going? Howdy, howdy. Welcome everybody. Thanks for making my day. Well, I appreciate that. Sorry about that. Alright folks, today we have quite the gauntlet to run through. Folks, if you have a moment, please go check out twitch.tv/Skiddadeer. Yeah, so I'm not too familiar with... Yeah, of course, Skiddadeer. I'm not too familiar with foreign policy, so I tend to stay away from it so that I don't step in it, you know? But... My instinct... My instinct is to... Steer away from war. My primary instinct is to steer away from war by any means necessary as much as possible. Good morning, I like pie. How's it going? We've got quite the amount of headlines to go through, so I think we should start here. Let me just bring some of these up. Okay, I think I got everything ready. Let's head right into it, folks. Let's turn our attention to California. Single-payer healthcare proposal fizzles in California Assembly. Nice meme. This is so depressing. Lawmakers declined to vote on a high-profile effort to overhaul California's healthcare system on Monday, putting an end to a proposal that would have guaranteed medical coverage to every resident by levying billions in new taxes. The Assembly Bill 1400 by Assemblyman Ash Kaura of San Jose did not have the necessary votes to move forward ahead of a key deadline. Instead of forcing a vote that could be politically damaging for some of his Democratic colleagues, Kaura opted to let the bill die, angering the California Nurses Association? Wait, is that it? The California Nurses Association? I'm not sure. That has championed single payer for years. Despite heavy opposition and substantial misinformation from those that stand to profit from our current healthcare system, we were able to ignite a realistic and achievable path towards single payer and bring AB 1400 to the floor. We were unable. Oh, I see. Okay. To the Assembly. Kaura said in a statement. However, it became clear that we did not have the votes necessary for passage, and I decided the best course of action is to not put AB 1400 for a vote today. I mean, I disagree with this. They should have... Well, okay. Hey Thundera, how's it going? What an L to start the stream with. Yeah, I know. Such good potential here, and it was just squandered. AB 1400 would have created a publicly financed healthcare system called CalCare, which would have cost between $314 billion and $391 billion in state and federal funds, according to the legislative analysis. But supporters says residents in the state would ultimately have saved money when compared to paying for insurance, copays, and deductibles. Yeah, you don't... Yeah, of course. Like, that seems to be the constant, research findings, right? When it comes to universal healthcare or single-payer systems, we always find that at the end of the day, you always end up saving money. You always end up saving money because you don't have to pay the premiums, you don't have to pay copay, which is a ridiculous concept to begin with. You don't have to pay co-insurance. You don't have to pay deductibles, which again is a ridiculous concept to begin with. So what is the point of privatized health insurance? What purpose exactly do they serve? The answer to that is nothing. The answer to that is nothing. The privatized system of healthcare insurance, or health insurance companies, their only purpose is to bleed you out of money. Because, like, what is the point of buying insurance if you have to pay 20% co-insurance anyways? You have to pay deductibles, you have to pay premiums, and their whole business model is designed so that they can shaft you in every way they can. Hey, Dr. Dragon Rider, how's it going? I actually got to drop in today. Well, welcome. Last time in California and Vermont when they passed healthcare, former healthcare executive who was the head of Cali Dems blocked it. Yeah, I'm not surprised. The reality is there is a thread by a previous ex health insurance CEO that admitted that they relied on misinformation to dissuade the public from any type of single payer system. This was the head of a large health insurance company. So yeah, they serve absolutely no purpose whatsoever, in my opinion. Yeah, exactly. This is disgusting. This is healthcare. This is like basic humanity. Elected leaders in California had the opportunity to put patients first and set an example for the whole country by passing AB 1400. The California Nurses Association said in a statement. Instead, Assembly member Ash Kalra, the main author of the bill, chose not to hold a vote on this bill at all, providing cover for those who would have been forced to go on the record about where they stand on guaranteed health care for all people in California. It's the second time in the last 5 years that a single payer has died in the Assembly. In 2017, a Senate bill to create a single payer plan was shelved by Assembly Speaker Anthony Rendon, who called that proposal woefully incomplete. Rendon's decision at the time angered the nurses' union, which failed to put it up for a vote as a cowardly act. On Monday, Rendon said the shortage of votes for AB 1400 showed how difficult it is to implement a single-payer healthcare in the state. Nevertheless, I'm disappointed that the author did not bring up this bill for a vote today. I support single-payer and fully intend to vote yes on this bill. With time, we'll have better and more successful legislation to bring us closer to this goal. Like, what was the problem here, though? That they didn't have the votes? Supporters of the bill said the COVID pandemic made the importance of healthcare access critically clear. A recent poll by the California Healthcare Foundation and NORC at the University of Chicago found that 83% of Californians say it's extremely or very important for Newsom and lawmakers to focus on making healthcare more affordable. Okay, but how about just making it single payer? Yeah, I was just pulling the article. You beat me to it while streaming. Still, Kalra's bill faced immense odds since it was introduced in February. For nearly a year, AB 1400 failed to gain traction while it lacked details on how it would be financed. This year, Kalra introduced a second bill, Assembly Constitutional Amendment, which would have used $163 billion in proposed new taxes to pay for the single-payer plan under AB 1400. That helped the bill win support this month in the Assembly's Health Appropriations Committee. Lawmakers faced intense lobbying on both sides of the bill leading up to the Monday's critical vote. The Progressive Caucus of the California Democratic Party threatened to withhold endorsements from any Assembly member that did not vote from AB 1400. Critics of the single payer have been flooding California's cell phone and social media with ads criticizing the bill, say it would cause massive disruption to California's healthcare at the worst possible time, and urging people to call lawmakers telling them to reject AB 1400. Wait, what? So the argument is that it's going to cause a massive disruption? That's really the only argument that they had? Instead of So they can't even make the argument that it's too expensive, it's unaffordable. They just can't make it happen, but apparently that's enough. Opponents say that even with its massive price tag, the proposal would still come up short for paying for for the healthcare system overhaul. Exactly how much the proposal would have cost if ultimately became law is still unknown. The Assembly recently approved a Republican request for the nonpartisan Legislative Analyst Office to review the cost and effect of legislation. I mean, like, can we look at the cause and effect of not having healthcare? Can we look at the cause and effect of how much it would save people? I can't find my executive medical proof, but did find this. Before working at Plaza, Rendon served as the interim director for the California League of Conservation Voters from 2008 to 2009. Oh, okay, gotcha. They can't even give an example of disruption. They can just say that and everyone goes with it? Yeah, pretty much, apparently. Apparently, that's all you have to say. It's not even a good excuse. It's not even a good excuse. The California Chamber of Commerce added to the proposal to its annual job killer list that highlights laws corporate interests say will hurt employment and the economy. Okay, but your job isn't to that's not a you problem. That's a private sector problem. Why do they care? A chamber spokesman said the legislation would ruin quality healthcare delivery and create the largest tax increase in the state history. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. So, how exactly would it ruin quality healthcare delivery? Explain to me how exactly is that going to be a thing? Because to my understanding, from what I understand, a single payer system gives about the same quality. It gives about the same quality as the privatized system. And saying that it would create the largest tax increase in state history is dishonest, without saying that it's going to save you all of these unnecessary costs and get rid of that middleman that's between you and your healthcare. You can't say that it's going to create the largest tax increase in state history without also adding the fact that it's going to save you deductibles, co-insurance, co-pays, premiums. Right? The overhead goes from 10 to 20%, drops to 3% if you go by Medicare costs. Gotcha. AB 1400 was a disaster in the making and an unnecessary distraction from the real work of creating a healthcare system that can provide affordable, high-quality healthcare to all Californians. Okay, but a single-payer system would do just that. Jim Wonderman, president and chief executive of the Bay Area Council, it was unworkable and would have cost California taxpayers and businesses hundreds of billions in new taxes with little or no hope that it would ever produce any results. What? That's so dishonest. I wish people weren't lied to and they understood why it makes sense to tax for healthcare. Yeah. I wish all these large health insurance companies wouldn't be allowed to astroturf this gross amount of just misleading propaganda, effectively. Assembly Republican leader Mary Waldron of Escondido praised Democrats who helped stop the foolhardy plan. Of course, better late than never, Waldron said. The fact that a proposal for a government takeover of our state's entire healthcare system even made it for this far shows how out of touch the Democratic Party is from the needs of everyday Californians. What? This is insane. The single-payer proposal has largely overshadowed a budget proposal by Governor Gavin Newsom to allow all income-eligible residents to qualify for the state's healthcare program for low-income people regardless of immigration status. California already allows children and young adults living in the country legally to qualify for Medi-Cal, which Californians 50 and older will be eligible beginning May 1st. Newsom's plan would add the final age group, which includes estimated 700,000 people who otherwise would meet income requirements but cannot receive Medi-Cal because of their immigration status. Yeah, like at the end of the day, like regardless, these people need, healthcare, obviously. And either you pay for it when they go to the emergency room, or you pay for it up front through things like Medicare or Medi-Cal in this case. They were told something different their whole lives. Yeah, like imagine the argument that you tried to unironically use is that you don't want the government to meddle in your healthcare, but simultaneously you would want a company, a corporation whose only design is to create profit, whose only goal is to create profit and value for shareholders. Those are the ones who get to make your medical decision. These health insurance companies are the ones that are going to be allowed to deny you service or procedures. They even get to dictate, if they want, what kind of drugs you take. Hey Alio, how's it going? Like a Republican, all money, no kindness. This reminds me of that meme of the "Don't tread on me" meme, except it's like the foot is wearing a boot with all the mega corporations like Coca-Cola and like all the big corporations like Coca-Cola, Amazon, things like that. And then the meme says, "At least it's not the Gooberment." Telling average people about the concept of single payer is like telling someone their whole life was a lie sometimes. Yeah, it's so bizarre having to argue for something so basic as healthcare. It's so bizarre. I have yet to find a good argument for a for-profit system for healthcare. Gavin Newsom, who campaigned 4 years ago on implementing single-payer healthcare, said that he remains committed to the goal but did not weigh in on Kalra's bill as he pushed his Medi-Cal expansion. I mean, if you want to do it the Bernie Sanders way, where you slowly lower the age of eligibility or expand eligibility depending on how you want to do it, that's fine too. The governor said he is awaiting a report by the state's Healthy California for All Commission detailing a plan on how to best create a single-payer model in the state. The facts are on our side that a single-payer system will save money and lives, and that the people are on our side. That meaningful healthcare reform is urgently needed, especially with 4 Democratic vacancies in the Assembly. The votes were not there today, but we will not give up. So, what? Thanks for the shout out, of course. TLDR, this is pretty sad that in 2022 we have to continue to make arguments for a single payer system. And despite all of this, not even have the necessary votes to move it forward. Allegedly. Not even have the votes to move it forward. This is so unbelievably frustrating. The district attorney for Fulton County, Georgia, asked the FBI on Sunday to assess security at her courthouse in response to comments by former President Trump taking aim at prosecutors investigating his business dealings and the conduct after the 2020 election. Yep, here we are, yet again. Security concerns were escalated this weekend by the rhetoric of the former president at a public event in Conroe, Texas, wrote the Fulton County DA, Fannie Willis, in a letter to the highest-ranking FBI official in Atlanta. Trump, who is at the center of at least 2 criminal investigations, told a rally of thousands of supporters on Saturday that if these radical, vicious, racist prosecutors do anything wrong or illegal, I hope we're going to have in this country the biggest protest we ever had in Washington, D.C., New York, Atlanta, and elsewhere. Yeah. This dude continues to be an agent of stochastic terrorism, and honestly, at this point, it is without doubt that he's doing this on purpose, and he feels like maybe this is his way of creating an out for himself as the legal walls slowly start to close in, right? Because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Willis cited that other comments from the rally in her question. Willis cited that and other comments from the rally in her request to Special Agent in Charge, J.C. Hacker. I'm asking that you immediately conduct the risk assessment of the Fulton County Courthouse and Government Center and that you provide protective resources to include intelligence and federal agents. Willis recently won an approval to convene a special grand jury to aid her investigation into the former president. In her letter to Hacker, she wrote that her office is conducting a criminal investigation into the former President Trump and his associates regarding the alleged attempts to improperly influence the administration of Georgia's 2020 general election. This is the throwback that happened in 2020 when he attempted to strong-arm the Secretary of State to find the necessary votes for him to win. Willis has said in interviews that the investigation includes a January 2, 2021 phone call in which Trump told Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger that I just want to find 11,780 votes. Trump lost the state to President Biden by that margin, and the outcome was affirmed by several recounts. That's right. So we had the first count, the machine recount, and then the manual recount, specifically in regards to Georgia. The district attorney wrote that the grand jury will convene on May 2nd, adding that her office will not be influenced or intimidated by anyone as this investigation moves forward. A spokesperson for Trump did not reply to a request for comment, but the FBI confirmed that it received the letter but declined to comment any further. At the rally on Saturday, Trump also said he would consider pardoning defendants charged in connection with January 6th, in which throngs of his supporters stormed the building, assaulting police officers and others. In another part of his speech cited by Willis, Trump called the prosecutors investigating him in Manhattan for fraud and Fulton County for election interference vicious, horrible people. Yeah, I don't want to face any consequences. I'm so scared of facing consequences for the stuff that I've done. They're racist and they're very sick. They're mentally sick, Trump said. They're going after me without any protection of my rights by the Supreme Court or most other courts. In reality, they're not after me, they're after you, and I just happen to be the person that's in the way. Oh, this is a good meme. Oh man, if this isn't a cult, I don't know what is. If this isn't Jim Jones. Can you imagine? I mean, this is basically Jim Jones right here. Right? They're not going after, they're not after me, they're after you. This is classic. This is classic cult leader behavior. The Manhattan investigation was the subject of a landmark Supreme Court decision in July of 2020 that affirmed that even sitting presidents can be subject to state criminal subpoenas. Prosecutors in the Manhattan District Office Attorney obtained Trump's tax records in February of 2021. Yeah, it turns out that you're not above the law regardless. When someone wants support for their crimes, they always say that, right? This is like some weird cult leader rhetoric over here, trying to rile people up. That's his main goal. His main goal is to get people mad. Here's some deeply disturbing news. After synagogues are targeted with swastikas and smashed windows, Rabbi urges community to respond with goodness and positivity. Rabbi Levi Notik had just finished preparing meals at the Free Synagogue Food Bank on Devon Avenue on Sunday when he stepped outside and saw a yellow swastika spray painted outside the building. Across the street, he saw someone yell racial slurs at a young Jewish man and then tackle him. Notik said he thanked God that no one was seriously hurt and urged the community to respond with goodness and positivity to a rash of vandalism that targeted 2 other synagogues and several Jewish businesses in West Rogers Park over the weekend. I think the message to the community is we need to add goodness and positivity. The way we deal with evil is good. We're going to do more food packing and we're not going to be deterred. Chicago police said they were questioning a suspect arrested after the incident at Notik Synagogue. They have not said whether the acts of vandalism are related, though they occurred within blocks of each other. Yeah. 2 businesses in the 2900 block of West Devon Avenue reported their windows broken on Saturday. In both instances, police said no entry had been made and nothing taken. On the same day, someone shattered a glass door and cracked another at a synagogue several blocks away. Yikes. At a synagogue in 3600 block of West Devon Avenue, a witness reported someone had kicked out a side window on Saturday morning. A swastika was found on the Free Synagogue in 2900 block. Another swastika was found in a cargo container in the 3000 block of West Devon. Police said a person of interest had been taken into custody in connection with the graffiti and for verbally assaulting someone nearby. Deborah Silverstein, whose 50th ward covers the area where the acts occurred, said police are still investigating if they were carried out by the same person or group of people. No official pronouncement has been made on a possible motive, but all have been hallmarks of hate-based crimes. I mean, wait, you found broken windows. You found broken windows and swastikas. You found broken windows and swastikas. Are you going to talk about Madison Cawthorn today? No. Should I? What happened? Fill me in, Tandera. These incidents are particularly upsetting as they come mere days after the Holocaust Remembrance Day and in light of worrying increasing anti-Semitism across the nation. Mary Lori Lightfoot condemned the incidents as undoubtedly part of the troubling rise of anti-Semitism that we've seen both in our city and across the country. Lightfoot said there was a lot of poignant statements made last week's City Council during a resolution commemorating the Holocaust Remembrance Day, but unfortunate reality is that hate still lives in Chicago, as it does in Illinois and as it does in the US. The anti-Semitic incidents on far north side are the latest evidence of that cold reality. What we need to learn from this experience is we need to stamp out hate wherever it rears its ugly head. The mayor then repeated what she said from the rostrum at last week's city meeting. I'm a black female lesbian, and I know that when they're coming after my brothers and sisters in the Jewish community, they've got a list, and I'm also on it. We have to stand united wherever we see hate, wherever we see anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, racism, and sexism, wherever it is. People of goodwill cannot turn a blind eye and just think, well, it's not me. It is you, it's me, it's all of us. Lightfoot noted detectives and officers are working diligently to put together a case and to support bringing charges against the suspect. But even before that happens, the mayor said city leaders have rallied, as we always do, to support our Jewish and Orthodox communities. She said Ald Silverstein has been terrific in advocating for her community. I'm looking out at a mostly black crowd, Lightfoot said on news conference on the west side, and I want to say to you, if it's happening in the north side to a Jewish community, it will happen to us as well, and we must stay united. Not in our city, not in this time. We will not tolerate that kind of hatred. Jesus. He said some dumb shit. Well, it's Madison Cawthorn, so is it like on Twitter? At Silverstein and the Chicago PD have organized a virtual community meeting at 6 p.m. to discuss the anti-Semitic incidents. Yikes. I've got a cat in my lap. The cat's gonna help us do the news today. Anyway, this is some scary shit. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. Synagogues being targeted by breaking windows and spray painting swastikas. This is some like 1930s. This is like some 1930s Germany shit. I love your cat. Thank you. She's just chilling in my lap. Washington Examiner is like a right-wing outlet. So you can, if they're reporting on this, it must have been really bad. That's right, Astro. See, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's my duty to know, but if they're reporting on this, then it must have been really bad. That's right, Astro. Crystal knocked. Jesus Christ. To piggyback off that, Ron DeSantis aide deletes tweets suggesting Nazi protesters were Democratic operatives. Good meme. Governor DeSantis' press secretary is facing massive backlash after she sent tweets on Sunday questioning whether pro-Nazi demonstrations in Orlando over the weekend were organized by Democratic staffers. Her comments drew widespread condemnation from elected officials as well as prominent South Florida rabbi who called the tweets from Christina Pushaw irreprehensible. The now deleted tweet, Pushaw suggested that a group of about 20 protesters who were seen wearing Nazi symbols and shouting anti-Semitic slurs on Saturday could be political opponents of DeSantis trying to frame the governor in a bad light. Oh, he doesn't need any help doing that. Her tweet was reference to several people organized by the anti-Donald Trump Republican group The Lincoln Project who posed with tiki torches during last year's governor's race in an attempt to smear Glenn Youngkin, who at the time was running for governor. Yeah, but that was very clearly a stunt. Like, that was clearly a PR stunt that was very obvious. Like, they had the whole backdrop behind them, and they didn't move or shout any, like, slurs. Like the people at the Unite the Right rally where they were saying, like, obvious, chanting slurs and stuff like that. They were just standing still with a backdrop that was very obvious a political PR stunt, right? Here's what Pushaw tweeted, quote, "Do we even know if they're Nazis, or is this a student like the white nationalists who crashed a Youngkin rally in Charlottesville pretending to be Dem staffers? Yeah, okay." This isn't the first time Pushaw drew criticism for posting controversial tweets in November, which was 3 months ago. Pushaw was critical of the Republic of Georgia, a country where she previously served as a political consultant, for requiring vaccine passes for people in that country to enter places like restaurants. In doing so, she implied that the Rothschilds were behind the decision because Georgia's prime minister met with the family during the time period. Me starting to think that she's entering Nazi territory here. Hold on. Oh, the Rothschilds were Jewish. The Rothschilds were Jewish. Wow. It's always Jewish people with these Nazi types, right? In doing so, she implied that the Rothschilds were behind the decision because Georgia's prime minister met with a member of that family during the time period. She later issued an apology. You see, like, it's one thing if you had like a incident and you apologize for it and you move on, you didn't want to create that vibe. But when it keeps happening, it's no longer like a one of, it becomes a pattern, right? And the fact that she was trying to deflect and minimize these Nazis in Orlando makes me think that she's just running cover for them. And if that's the case, why? And if that's the case, why? After facing swift blowback on Twitter, Pushas Sunday night followed up her initial tweet with another post admitting that she did not know who staged the Orlando protest and stressed that Nazi symbolism and hate speech are wrong. Rabbi Jeffrey Salkin of Temple of Israel in Palm Beach and a columnist for religious... Hey, quit chewing on my... Stop it. Hey, kitty. Okay, kitty. Okay. He's like chewing on my cable. Come on, kitty. She's chewing on my cable and purring really loudly. Okay, kitty. Stop it. See? She's got my cable in her mouth. Hey. Hey. Sorry about that. The very idea that the governor's press representative suggested that neo-Nazis are fake is reprehensible. Yeah, it always seems like the people who run cover for these folks are always the self-report. Rabbi Jeffrey Salkin of the Temple of Israel in Palm Beach and a columnist for Religion News Service said DeSantis must condemn the comments from his own press staffer. Florida is home to one of the largest populations of Jews in the U.S. This is also following news that we talked about last week, that there was Nazi propaganda being thrown out in the beach areas. And Fort Lauderdale, which is like South Florida. Hey, Jared Cardenas, last night when Dylan said that... Oh no, he said the N-word? Yo, is that for real? Uh-oh. What happened there? Okay, so you're gonna need to tell me the whole context of that, Jared. Cat gets what cat wants, true. The very idea that the governor's press secretary suggesting that such neo-Nazis are fake is reprehensible, he told Politico. This is a time for the public to be aware of the dangers of anti-Semitic extremism and not to traffic in the denial of that extremism. Correct. Alright, let's see what's going on over here. Madison Cawthorn encouraged crowd to lightly threaten members of Congress. Wait, how do you lightly threaten somebody? Maybe Automod? Hold on, James Napper. Maybe Automod just caught it for some reason. Yeah, I don't know why. I'm not seeing it on my end. Just type it out just type it out using spaces or something. If it's not a big deal, if it's just Automod being Automod, just type it out with spaces or something, or just whisper it to me. Because I don't see it here. Okay, here we go. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with this. I don't know why Automod caught this. So let's go over this. There's arguably a very deep-rooted reason why far-right extremists, for potentially any extremist person, choose to target Jewish communities ahead of others. Jewish communities tend to have a very strong social bond, strong social capital, which means they tend to rarely be completely alienated in the same way the extremists are. They are, in essence, envious of the sense of belonging. Oddly enough, That strong bond was created by them being shunned after the rise of Christianity. Yeah, that's true. I don't know why Automod was like catching this. There's nothing wrong with this statement. Hey Dustin, how's it going? Lightly threatened means we have more guns than cops do. I wonder if it's watered down because it's a right-wing site. I mean, I think we can still get the TLDR, the essence of what happened here. A month before the Capitol riot, Representative Madison Cawthorn urged the crowd to lightly threaten their members of Congress. The newly elected North Carolina Republican made comments at an event for TPUSA in December, according to the report by New York Times. Say, quote, "If you don't support election integrity, I'm coming after you." What? Jesus Christ. Become a terrorist. But like lightly. Just lightly become a terrorist. I have no idea what that means. Check your hair in your lint? What? Check for hair in your lint? I mean, yeah. Yeah, there's hair. There's cat hair in particular in my lint all the time. This was before January 6th. Yeah, that's right. Then it was in December. It was in December. Say, quote, "If you don't support election integrity," which again, okay, but what exactly is the reason? Was there like a massive incident that requires everybody to focus on election integrity, or is this some type of manufactured crisis that actually has no basis in reality? Yeah, I always do, Jared. Yeah, that's somewhat sinister, especially given that we've already seen plots before of violence towards elected officials. Yeah, this is stochastic terrorism, but not really, because this is not even very... This isn't even thinly veiled. This is very, very explicit, right? If you don't support election integrity, I'm coming after you, said Madison Cawthorn. Madison Cawthorn's coming after you. So this is a representative saying that he's coming after you. Everybody's coming after you, the 25-year-old said, adding that attendees call your congressman and feel free, you can lightly threaten them. Which, by the way, surely even against Republican lawmakers, there was an increase in death threats. Even towards Republican lawmakers. I wonder if that's why so many Republicans voted to decertify, because they were threatened and scared of their own base. True. Hey Jared, can you explain to me with context what that story was about with Dylan Burns? He is he's more than a streamer. That's the thing. He's more than just a streamer. Can you explain that to me? I think it's just more than just populism. I think it's just more than that. Maybe that's the vehicle that's being used to hijack it, James, but that's not... Jeez, I think we're dealing with something else. I think that's the vehicle that was being used, but I'm not sure that that's exactly what it is. At the root of it. I think populism, or like Dundera said, faux populism, is the vehicle that they chose to do it. That's basically the tipping point. I think where you could see things getting a bit out of hand, and I think some of these people know that, which is why it's a very dangerous game that they're playing. Yeah, and they don't care because it keeps them in power. Since the deadly siege of the Capitol, Cawthorn has changed his rhetoric regarding claims of voter fraud. Once you start floating this idea of election fraud and people outright stealing an election and cheating, that has only one outcome. The party as a whole should have been much more wise about their choice of words. Says the guy who's literally urging his base or supporters to become terrorists. Like, what are you talking about? Oh, it was a joke. He acknowledged me last night. Oh, good for you, Jared. Dylan streams to like hundreds and hundreds of people, so the base is very unhinged. So even saying something that's not that drastic could make them show up somewhere. Yeah, like this is. I want to say that this is stochastic terrorism, but it's not. It's very explicit. It's very explicit. And just so that we're very, very accurate about our wording. So just so that we're very, very explicit. Just so that people can't claim that I'm being hyperbolic or anything like that. Terrorism, the unlawful use of violence and intimidation. The unlawful use of violence and intimidation. Quote, I'm coming after you. Quote, you can lightly threaten them. Especially against civilians in pursuit of a political aim. In other words, if they don't support X, go after them, lightly threaten them. So yeah, I'm not using that word hyperbolically. Madison Cawthorn literally was telling his people to become terrorists. Cawthorn spoke at the Save America pro-Trump rally last week prior to the violence that took place at the Capitol and left at least 5 people dead, including a Capitol Hill officer. Several Democrats in North Carolina have called for an investigation into Cawthorn, claiming he was responsible for helping to incite violence on January 6th. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, what else are you supposed to read from, quote, if you don't support election integrity, I'm coming after you, and then say, you can lightly threaten them, threaten your representatives. I mean, I think you can technically subcategorize it as ethnic populism or something, but I guess that's when it starts getting a bit technical. Yeah, but then you're starting to get into, like, ethno-states, which then translates to other things, so I don't know. Let's just keep it simple, right? They were strategically fed lies, and if you were unhinged and told you're going to lose everything and the world would end by public officials, you would too. Yeah. This is classic stochastic terrorism, Dendar. What you're describing is classic stochastic terrorism, right? Where, especially with particular to Donald Trump, who continued to push, and still does, push this lie that the election was rigged, the election was stolen, the courts are against you. The courts are against you. Even some Republicans are against you. There's no way out. Of course, someone who's already predisposed to this line of thinking is going to say, I know what I have to do now. And thus, things like January 6th happened, right? Donald Trump never told anybody to do an insurrection. Donald Trump never told anybody to do any kind of violence or anything like that. He just kept insisting that they had no other alternative. He just kept insisting that all the systems were rigged, all the court cases were rigged, all the judges were against them, all the Republicans who didn't want to certify are against them. I mean, what other conclusion were people that are already predisposed to this line of thinking are going to reach? Of course. Of course, they're going to do something to the effect of what culminated into January 6th. But Madison Cawthorn goes a step further. Madison Cawthorn isn't even suggesting through thinly veiled rhetoric. Madison Cawthorn is literally telling you to go lightly threaten your representatives. Madison Cawthorn is too stupid to even hide his words in like to hide his intents with words. He's too stupid to even formulate that ability. Especially when what they mean by electoral integrity is just that we want the elections to go. Especially when what they mean by election integrity is just the way we want the elections to go. They're not interested in integrity. Yeah, of course. Because, like, I mean, if there was a serious, like, question about election integrity and there was serious security issues, then we should address those. But nothing indicates that we had any type of, like, problems when it comes to our election, right? Everything seemed to have been run pretty smoothly. And these folks are making fun of AOC for fearing for her safety. Yeah, all of those people were quite in danger, including Republicans. All of those people that were there were in danger, including Republicans. So, yeah. And again, just so that I'm making sure that I'm using my words correctly. The public demonization of a group or of a person or group resulting in the incitement of a violent act which is statistically probable but whose specifics cannot be predicted. Does that sound about accurate? About right? Do you think that Madison Cawthorn will ever get held accountable? Probably not, to be honest. Probably not. To be quite honest, I have no idea. I think that pushing distrust argument is very dangerous. This is why I've always pushed back against it, even when people on the left do it in regards to election integrity. Trust and faith in the system to a healthy degree is extremely important to function and sustainability. To the function and sustainability of any actual democratic process. And I get that some people think, well, it's not even a democracy anyway, and I get that. But what I'm saying is if you don't approach critique properly, you risk falling dangerously backwards. That's a fair statement. So, like, for a democracy to succeed or to be as healthy as possible, I've mentioned this like over 9,000 times, you do need to have strong institutions. In other words, institutions that do and function as is. You need transparency and be forthcoming, or the people participating in said democracy need to know as much as possible what's going on. Transparency. And integrity and inclusivity. In other words, people have to participate. Well, I mean, your username certainly fits. So, your username certainly fits, I guess. Actual, he was born in your country? Yeah, he was. He was born right here in the US. He was born in your country. Yeah, he was born right here. That's true. Hey, Chai Bureaucrat, how's it going? You came in at a perfect time, Chai Bureaucrat, where we're discussing Madison Cawthorn and his inability. Like, he's actually too stupid to do stochastic terrorism, and instead just flat out he's just flat out telling he flat out told his crowd of people to lightly threaten members of Congress. How do you know if you've been banned? Will you not be able to search the channel? No, I think you can. All of things you can legitimate to spy them for, you gotta go with that angle. Pathetic. True. True. It's like these people can't think anything further other than, like, I don't know, race or something like that. Sad. Yeah, I think you can search the channel, Thandera, but you won't be able to chat in it. It'll say that you've been banned in this channel. I think. I don't know. I've never been banned in a channel. You can hate watch it. Yeah, there you go. You can just like watch it. But you can't chat in the channel, and I don't think you can do anything else. I've only been banned in one channel. I never hate watched though. Yeah, like there's no point. I mean, especially if you've already been banned, because I don't know. That's sad. Yeah, I've never been banned in any channel. I've been banned from like 6 channels. Yeah, trust me. We know. We can tell. You're not trying to help. You're trying to regurgitate like the smallest of smallest NPC dialogue tree. If you're banned from the chat, I bet it was bad. Yeah, they're just, I mean, like, this is obviously like a troll or somebody who has nothing better to do. Anyways. DLDR, Madison Cawthorn encouraging his crowd to be terrorists. Nice meme. Good meme. Good stuff. Good stuff. Alright, that's enough. You've outlived your usefulness. Goodbye. If you're gonna be a troll, at least be funny, okay? At least be funny or entertaining or have something to argue against, but you're neither of those things. Trolls be trollin'. Alright. Biden sending more than $1 billion to states to plug abandoned oil and gas wells. The Biden administration on Monday announced it will send $1.15 billion to states to plug thousands of orphan oil and gas wells that emit methane, a potent climate-changing greenhouse gas. Right? Methane is a main component of natural gas and accounts for 10% of greenhouse gas emissions. Jeez. The oil and gas industry represents nearly 30% of the country's methane emissions. Methane is 84 times more potent than carbon and doesn't last as long as the atmosphere before it breaks down, which makes it a significant target for reducing global warming more quickly while simultaneously working to reduce other greenhouse gases. The funding to plug oil and gas wells comes from President Joe Biden's bipartisan infrastructure bill, which allocated a total of $4.7 billion to form a new federal program to address the thousands of wells abandoned across the country. Okay. So, can somebody point out the massive problem with this? Yeah, I think Chai Bureaucrat just pointed it out. Why are we cleaning up the oil industry's, the fossil fuel industry's mess? That being said, it does have to be done, one way or the other. But why are we footing the bill? Why can't we send that to the oil companies? Interior Secretary Deb Haaland said in a statement that the funding enables the government to confront the legacy, pollution, and long-standing environmental injustices that far too long have plagued underrepresented communities. We must act with urgency to address more than 100,000 documented orphaned wells across the country and leave no community behind. This is good for our climate, the health of our communities, and for American workers. The money will go to 26 states that submitted notices of intent to the Department of Interior last year, including more than 100 million people live within a mile of an abandoned oil and gas well, some of which emit harmful gases that disproportionately impact low-income communities of color in the U.S. Addressing these existing wells is an important first step, said Maya Soror, the Deputy Legislative Director for the Sierra Club, but unless it's paired with bonding reform that requires oil and gas companies to cover these costs up front, the industry will continue to leave behind toxic wells on our public lands and expect taxpayers to cover up the cost of cleaning them up. Right, so like what incentives do fossil fuel companies have to have any consideration when they know that the government is going to take care of it? I guess you could make the argument, but then I guess you were going to have to go down the route where it would entail long court cases and legal wrangling, which could delay the fix. Like, how long would it take to make these companies legally liable to fix that kind of thing? Yeah, no, I get it. I get that, you know, under the current system, it is necessary to do it like this, but I mean, there should be rules and regulations that address this up front instead of us having to react to it like we are right now. Fix it now and build them later. That's another example right there, another solution. Just fix up the issues that we have and then make them liable. We'll get our money some way. Absolutely build in legislation now where they're liable for it from now on, for example. Yeah, but like, I think that at this point, like, it's very imperative that they understand that this is their fault, and we shouldn't have to be the ones picking up the tab for this. And I think that absolutely, whether it takes a while, after whatever, we fix the problem now, and then we'll gear up for battles to recover those costs, because I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair at all. At all. We welcome the administration's efforts to address orphan wells. Bethany Williams, a spokesperson for the American Petroleum Institute, the oil and gas industry's largest trade group. API last year released a new industry standard last year to address the closure and remediation of wells. The White House last year helped move forward to the global methane pledge, to a pact to cut methane emissions by 30% by the end of the decade, which again, yeah, good meme. More than 100 nations have joined the pledge, including 15 of the top world's 30 methane emitters, according to the White House. The White House also described efforts to require pipeline operators to minimize methane leaks, conduct research to curb methane emissions from beef and dairy systems, and to create new interagency working groups to coordinate the measurement, monitoring, and reporting of greenhouse gas emissions. Yeah, but how about just like decoupling ourselves from this fossil fuel? To begin with, we welcome the government paying to clean up our mess. True. Worried about Texas voting rights? What? Texans got a second voter card for the midterms? What does that mean? I think a robust solution to this would be to just stop indulging the fossil fuel industry altogether, okay? Look, the way we're going is unsustainable. Why do we need to continue to hold their hand this entire time? Why does the Biden administration need to continue to hold their hand? Like, that's it. Let it die. And they should be footing the bill for all of this. It's their fault. It's their fault. And sadly, all these oil execs, all these fossil fuel execs are just laughing straight to the bank. We had an orange card for the general. I don't know what that means. If you want, send it to me via Whispers, Jared. On the Ring of Fire's YouTube channel, they posted a video exposing Michigan Attorney General fumbling the case for convicting those responsible for the Flint crisis. The officials paid residents hush money, and she ruined the case. Yikes. Unbelievable. Yeah, and that's a giant meme of the century, right, James? It's crazy because a lot of the states that have been ravaged by fossil fuels are also big Republican voting states like Louisiana. True. And that's a giant meme about this whole thing. I can't emphasize enough the Book of Strangers. in their own land to understand the complicatedness of the situation. Just a fantastic book that at least dares to ask the question why to those people as to why they vote the way they do. Some really sad stories in it, to be fair. Yikes. Jeez. So as you folks may know, Art Puke, how's it going? As you folks may know, there has been several bomb cyclones in the Northeast, several really big winter storms that have left thousands of people without power. Well, it just happens to be that climate change may be supercharging Northeast snowstorms. This weekend blizzard that slammed the coastal mid-Atlantic and New England up to 30.9 inches of snow and howling winds is consistent with climate science research showing the characteristics of these winter storms, showing how the characteristics of these winter storms are changing. Nor'easters have been affecting New England for generations and they're deadly and costly. Climate change may be making these weather systems more potent. Yeah. People who work their whole lives for big energy industries saw their whole communities collapse around them, the ecology, etc., and yet still gripped in the cycle of big business because they're the only people who offer them, quote, meaningful jobs that aren't temporary or degrading, yet they know deep down it's destroying the state they lived in their whole life in. Yeah, I've gotten threats online. Should streamers take that seriously? Depends. Depends on the nature of the threat. I mean, is it, like, legitimate? Is it credible? Is it just a meme? Like, I don't know. It just depends. Streamers should take it seriously. Yeah, it just depends on, like, the nature of the threat, right? Like, if it's a serious threat where, I don't know, they somehow they somehow tell you that they know where you live or post your address or find out, like, something a little bit more that could cause, could raise the alarm, then yeah, of course, you should take it seriously. These type of storms are powered by contrast between air masses with Arctic air to the north and relatively mild maritime air over the waters of the Gulf Stream. Due to climate change, ocean temperatures are climbing and more moisture is being added to the atmosphere. This is causing an uptick in heavy precipitation events, rain and snow that may boost the storm's intensification rates. The Gulf of Maine is one of the fastest warming ocean regions on Earth, a trend tied to climate change. The weekend storm intensified at an extraordinary pace, its minimum central pressure plunging by 35 millibars in 18 hours. In general, the lower the pressure, the stronger the storm. True, this is the same for hurricanes. Many of the mid-Atlantic and Northeast's biggest snowstorms on record have occurred since the 2000s, in line with climate change-related trends towards more frequent and severe heavy precipitation events. Including Saturday, 6 of Boston's top 10 snowstorms have occurred since 2003 and 9 of its top 10 since 1978. Similar trends have been seen in New York City, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. Computer modeling studies show an intensification of the bigger storms even as small snow events become rare. This is why I get so omega triggered about people like Jordan Peterson, who gets in front of millions of people and attempts to make the argument that climate change isn't like really a big deal, trying to make like some weird, bizarre comparison where he says something to the effect of climate is everything. Well, no, climate is not everything. Climate isn't everything. Climate is a trend in long-term weather events, effectively, right? Difference between weather and climate. And then he tries to make the argument that because models don't account for every single absolute teeny weeny variable, then how do they know that climate change is even a thing? Benjamin B. Dixon, rating with a party of 29. Welcome, everybody. How's it going? Welcome, everybody. Good morning. From Like It or Not in the AM. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the stream. If you guys don't know who we are A Difficult Truth. Hey, Siscat. We do news and politics Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And join us for Saturday Catterdays at noon Eastern Time. How are you? How are you, Jamtoon? We're hanging in here. Siscat, how's it going? Folks, if you don't already, make sure you go to twitch.tv/Benjamin P. Dixon Show. Check them out on YouTube as well. Hit them a follow, subscribe, support them, and also head on over to twitch.tv/Jamtoon. Not bad, having some MS stuff, but pretty decent otherwise. MS. If you're just coming in from the Benjamin B. Dixon raid, don't forget to hit the follow button. It does help us out. Spread the word far and wide that this is the chillest place to be for news and politics in 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday. And you get 5 free emotes. Check that out. Extreme political actions, corporate manipulation, corruption, and internal events. Actions are also serious. Yeah, that's true. I think that a lot of these things are all kind of just together, right? Going okay? Been lurking because I'm working. Crisis hotline. Oh. Fellow MSer, are you referring to multiple sclerosis? Thank you for the follow, Blade. Helping people find access for emergency healthcare when hospitals are full of COVID. Wow. Wait, Corvette, are you okay? I have MS, multiple sclerosis, and autoimmune disease. Yep, that's exactly it is. Hey, next ad hominem is gonna get you is gonna get you banned. How about that? I don't get what the point of that was. I don't get what the point of that was. To just come in and like yell and insult people. Okay. Jesus, 2 trolls in one stream. Yeah, it's okay. Bring them. Keep it coming. Yeah, very aggressive without even arguments either. Without even arguments. At least I can lurk and sometimes comment between calls. No problem. I'm just glad you're here. That's right, trolls want to troll. So what are we learning of? Today, and this is true, we're going over, well, we went over quite some headlines. We went over the fact that President Biden is sending more than $1 billion to plug up abandoned oil rigs, which should be really delegated to the companies themselves. We have DeSantis' aide deleting tweets suggesting that Nazi protesters were just Democratic operatives. We have Georgia prosecutor asking FBI for security help after Trump's rally because, stochastic terrorism. Synagogues being targeted with swastikas and smashed windows. And the first article that we went through today was single-payer healthcare was shot down in California. So today was a bit of a dumpster fire. Yeah. I should have just said that. I probably should have just said that. Obviously, kids who don't know how to be fair and compassionate. No, these people just have nothing better to do, and somehow they feel like they're gonna get something in by going into a stream with people they absolutely have no idea who they are, and just insult them and start off with the most asinine comment. A person who actually their job is to help people find access to emergency healthcare because or when hospitals are full of COVID. That's literally their job, and they're telling them that that's just not a thing. Bro, that's like coming to my job and say that I don't know, that natural disasters don't exist because okay, so a quick background. So as you guys know, I do a lot of I do customer service for insurance, and part of the insurance policies that we do relate to disasters, like natural disasters, right? So that would be like somebody coming up to me and saying that climate change doesn't exist or natural disasters don't exist. Bro, I work here. The winter in the Northeast has sucked. It felt like actual winter, cold AF. Oof. I had 2 trolls this morning and a viewer that turned troll, which is still tweaking my brain. Sometimes it happens, and sometimes they're more... sometimes they hide their power level until later on they, something comes up that reveals them. I like the troll that lets us pick apart their arguments. Yeah, I mean, at least be entertaining. At least have something that I can, pick apart, or, a semblance of an argument. But, they just came on saying some, asinine comments and then just started, yelling at everybody, so... Nah, no thank you. Local connections to a doctor will see any undocumented immigrants for free, and he has translators. He is awesome, a lifesaver. Hey, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. he tripled down. It was sad. Dang. Well, some trolls like to collect bans as trophies since they can't find internal value elsewhere. Like, yeah, but like, what is that internal value? Like, what exactly do they accomplish?
Here, and this is a perfect example of why.
Like, what intrinsic value do you get other than like, you come in here for 5 seconds and you get banned? Like, I wish there was something to it, but I don't know. By the way, how's it going? Yeah, I like the trolls that let us pick apart their arguments. Yeah, like that. Well, I don't know if he's a troll. I think he's a literal. He believes it. He's a true believer. That little libertarian that sometimes comes through, who couldn't even tell me what who couldn't even tell me what capitalism is. Whose definition of socialism or communism was the state or something like that is what they said. It's emotional, unquantifiable. The confirmation bias they gain from being banned is enough because they've been told that being censored is validation. That's right. I am a heavy pro-censorship. I run a heavy pro-censorship platform in this. I run a very tight ship when it comes to censorship. I make sure that no one is allowed to think differently than me. Yeah, it's like Reddit rewards.
I stopped sleep.
So, okay, change one. It's a weird.
Okay. So this reminds me of this segment here from the pseudo-intellectual known as Jordan Peterson.
Clip where Jordan Peterson opens by discussing the climate crisis and his thoughts on this.
Climate change one is a weird one. So that
well,
one.
That's because there's no such thing as climate, right? Climate and everything are the same word.
Climate and everything are the same word. Can anybody dissect what that really means?
And that's what bothers me about the climate change types. It's like...
Climate change types. Whoa. What is climate change types? What is that?
This is something that bothers me about it, technically.
And like, you can tell that, like, this guy has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. He's just saying words, right? Like, this is how you can tell.
It's like, well, climate is about everything.
Climate is not about everything.
So, okay. But your models aren't based on everything.
Because climate isn't everything. This is all based on a gobbledygook premise to begin with. This is all based on a gobbledygook premise to begin with. It's based on a false premise. It bothers him technically, which is the best kind of bothering. I don't think I've ever been banned. Me neither, Dimesh. Octo squiddies, I'll need a lot more hallucinogens and whiskey to dissect that nonsense because there's nothing to dissect there. It's all gobbledygook.
Your models are based on a
Warming.
set number of variables.
Yeah.
So that means you've reduced the variables, which
Right, models are based on set number of variables. Yes. That's what models are. However, climate isn't everything. That's the false premise. Climate isn't everything, so therefore the model, like, so I'm gonna try to be to dissect the idea that he's trying to say that you can't possibly, there is no such thing as climate because climate is everything, and because climate is everything, you can't account for everything, therefore it's all nonsense. That's his argument. Well, no, climate is very specific in terms of like how they study it. Climate has a definition. Like, you know that, right? He's a professor. Climate change definition. So the definition of climate change is a change in global or regional climate patterns, in particular, a change apparent from mid to late 20th century onwards attributed largely to increased levels of atmospheric CO2 produced by the use of fossil fuels, and what they mean is anthropogenic factors are what's pushing it, right? It is an unnatural acceleration of global temperatures because of anthropogenic changes. We're the ones that doing it. right? Climate is not everything. Climate is very specific. So obviously, your variables that you use to monitor these things are going to be attuned to climate, to address the patterns to address the climate patterns at levels of atmospheric carbon dioxide. You track those, how they're made. I mean, like, you can track these things. I have to go figure out some things. See you later. Thank you, Jamtoon. I appreciate that. I appreciate you hanging out. Right, we can extend this argument just to everything. Econ, modeling, philosophy. Let's just logically extreme everything as too intersectional, so there's no value in discussing everything. Right, which is his goal. True, but I like a challenge. Technically, that is correct. Say, oh, I'm sorry. Hold on, chat. I didn't do it properly. Technically, that is correct. Say anything confidently enough, and there's a sizable portion of the people that'll believe it. Hey, Heat 420, how's it going? You see, we can extend this argument. We can extend the same argument to everything, because everything is everything. Econ, modeling, philosophy, let's just logic extreme everything as too intersectional, because, well, then there's actually no value of discussing anything. Which, of course, is his goal.
Or everything to that set. Well, how did you decide which set of variables to include in the equation if it's about everything?
Well, how did you... Wait, I can't believe this. Like, this is just so asinine that it's so hard to, like...
So that means you've reduced the variables. Models aren't based on everything.
Because it's
Your
not
models
everything.
Are based on a set number of variables.
Correct.
So that means
all
you've
have to do.
reduced the variables.
I love how like Joe Rogan has absolutely no capability of pushing back against this gobbledygook. Joe Rogan has absolutely no basis, background knowledge to even like begin to push back on this.
Which are everything to that set.
Again, it's not everything.
Well, how did you decide which set of variables to include in the equation if it...
Because climate is very specific, so you choose the variables that are going to give you the modeling that you want. Duh. What a pseudo-intellectual. This is absolutely infuriating. Like, the thing is, like, the thing about Jordan Peterson that really triggers me is his his flagrant ability to disregard basic concepts, like especially when it comes to climate change. Like, this is the thinking of like a child. Yeah, there you go, Thundera. Like, take away the vocabulary and he sounds like a 5-year-old. He's really not saying anything. Exactly. It's not easy being Peterson. Oh no, it's very easy being Peterson. If I just talk for a long period of time and start to slowly reduce my speed and slowly Kermit fry my voice, then I can do Jordan Peterson. I can just be Jordan Peterson if I slow down just a little bit. If I slow down just a little bit and begin to expand my vocabulary to include very verbose language and just use big words that people won't bother to look up, or it makes me kind of sound smart, and just use a kind of Kermit fry my voice, then yeah, I too can go on a massive platform and completely disregard the scientific process. Oh, and you have to say it very, very, very confidently. Yeah, that's right, but you can't do it in chunks. It makes you sound like Captain Kirk. True. All of these thought leaders have intellectual Teflon. I'm jealous. They had new ideas just roll off the brain even during conversation. Before any actual information can latch on. True. Did you see he addressed the Kermit meme? No. Mom Peterson, let's go down the nihilism hole. If climate is everything and pointless to try to account for everything, then everything is nothing, and therefore, everything including yourself is irrelevant. Checkmate. Checkmate, Dr. Peterson. Mind you, this is a clinical psychologist who has absolutely no field or knowledge about the climate crisis. And honestly, it gets really frustrating because like Joe Rogan has absolutely no ability to push back on this gobbledygook. Like, I'm sorry, but even I could offer a much better like pushback than, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Listen to him.
Climate is about everything. So, okay. Such thing as climate, right? Climate and everything are the same word. And that's what bothers me about the climate change types. It's like, this is something that bothers me about it technically. It's like, well, climate is about everything. So, okay. But your models aren't based on everything. Your models are based on a set number of variables.
Right.
Yeah.
So that means you've reduced the variable.
Bro. Yeah. Dude. No. No. Climate isn't everything. Models aren't based on everything. You know this. Jesus Christ.
Which are everything, to that set.
I took a philosophy 101 if you couldn't tell.
Variables to include in the equation if it's about everything. And that's not just a criticism. That's like, if it's about everything, your models aren't right. Because your models do not and cannot model everything.
I love his face. And Joe Rogan woefully unequipped to deal with this. He had a normal take once when he was talking about insulin. He said maybe it's you, not them, or something like that. Yeah, like, I mean, sure, broken clock. But streamer, if we can't account for everything perfectly and means test, then what's the point in concluding anything? Correct, Dr. Peterson. Is that you? Is that your alt account, Dr. Peterson? Howdy, Dark Shadow. I didn't realize we were watching the Rash and Ashes like Inception up in here. Yeah, I just wanted to go back to that because like I think we watched this yesterday, I want to say. Because I just wanted to address that because like obviously we have computer modeling studies that show intensifications of these bigger storms. That show the intensification of these bigger storms as part of climate change, right? Like, we have this data. You found my alt account, damn liberal information apparatus. Yeah, I'm everywhere. I see everything. You look like a Wish version of FaZe Rug. I have no idea who FaZe Rug is. But I'm not a Wish version of anything. Listen. I'm the real deal, okay? I'm not the Wish version of anything. I'm the real deal. You got that? Anyways. Jordan Peterson trying to tell me that climate models can't possibly account for everything because climate is everything, which is completely based on a false premise. Climate isn't everything. There's very specific variables that you look for to project and to put into the obvious, modeling to give you the results that you're looking for. They will climb mountains before they do a quick Google search on the scientific studies and evidence. Yeah, I mean, like, and this also just flies in the face of, like, the work that took decades and years and hours, countless of efforts by the climate scientists across the planet. Upon Googling phase rug, looks like a Wish version of phase rug 2. Wonder where the original is. True. I don't even know who that is. What? I don't even look like him. Set phasers to rug. True. I'm so lost, so am I. I don't keep up with the cool kids, so I have no idea. Anyways, TLDR. Good meme. Good meme by Jordan Peterson. Life must be so easy for conservatives. They don't have to worry about anything. They can look at studies and being like fake and move on. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, all you can do, like, for conservatives, if you can, like, sell them on an idea that they feel very strongly about, that's it. That's all you need to do. Sprinkle in some fear, sprinkle in some socialism, and that's it. Anyways, the TLDR of this is because of our very intricate climate modeling. We've been noticing trends that these northeastern storms, these bomb cyclones, are going to be worse. They're going to be worse. And, you know, things like what happened last week are going to be the new norm. Things like this are going to be the new norm, and yet we see no action, no effective action whatsoever.
There's actually bird detection radar, which is, and there's a couple different companies make it, and they can detect a flock of birds about 3 to 5 miles away. And the computer will automatically shut the turbine down if the flock is getting ready to fly into the turbine. So that can be deployed, and it has been deployed in offshore wind turbines already. They've also found that just simply painting one blade black.
I love that. It's the simplest thing, but it works well.
It's been shown in onshore wind turbines to reduce the kill rate by about 70%, because you get kind of strobing effect, and the birds can see that turbine much more, and they'll evade it. Final thing is, most of the seabirds, which there are millions, of course, off the coast of California, most of them tend to
communism is inherently bad. Capitalism is inherently bad.
And there's going to be a pretty big air gap between the bottom of the blade and the sea surface, typically about 100, 120 feet. So I think a lot of birds will be simply flying under the blades. The bottom line, as far as I'm concerned on this issue, is the Audubon Society has come out in strong support of offshore wind. And their rationale is, yes, they understand some birds are going to get killed by these turbines, but they see climate change as a bigger threat to birds than the wind turbines. They believe offshore wind is an important part of the solution. So I was heartened by that part of it.
Hey y'all, it's Becky here from the Beckosphere, where we talk about climate news and solutions. If you would like to stay up to date on one of the most important topics facing humanity, I highly suggest you hit that subscribe button.
That's not true.
Ring the bell so you don't.
That's not true. You just have to work. Really? You just have to work? You can tell that to my co-host, who works anywhere from 60 to 80 hours a week. Okay? Struggling with over $25,000 of medical debt because of capitalism.
Don't miss every single time I post. Today, we are going to talk to Mike Clancy. Mike is a retired technical and scientific director at the Navy's Fleet Numerical Meteorology and Oceanography Center, also known as FENMOC. He is now part of his local citizens climate lobby. So recently, Mike has been focused on educating the public on offshore wind technology and implementation. President Biden wants to have 30 gigawatts of energy coming from offshore wind farms by 2030. He's considering locations in both the East and West Coast, as well as the Gulf of Mexico. So far, he has had...
Wrong. because the government totally doesn't regulate the crap out of healthcare, skyrocketing prices. Tell me you don't understand. Like, again, do you really like understand like what capitalism is? Why do you simp for something that you don't even understand? Why do you say like, why do you keep coming in here with these asinine takes, clearly demonstrating that you have no idea what you're talking about? You come in here ever so often demonstrating repeatedly that you just don't know what you're talking about. So if that's the case, and that's okay, because even sometimes I don't know what I'm talking about, okay? I make mistakes. I step in it plenty of times. I've taken my share of L's. But wouldn't it stand to reason that if you're going to make these claims, maybe you should just research it? Like, the government regulating healthcare isn't what makes healthcare bad in this country. Just so you know, the government regulating healthcare isn't what makes it bad. It's the insurance companies who price gauge. It's the insurance companies whose only motive is profit. Whose insurance companies who make your decisions for you. The insurance companies who make money denying you healthcare. The insurance companies who charge ridiculous premiums, co-insurance, deductibles. Have you thought about that? What makes it expensive is capitalism. Do you know what market failures are? Wait. Here, let me demonstrate your lack of knowledge of how like economics functions. Do you understand what market failures are? Explain to me what a market failure is. Wrong. That's not what a market failure is. So then why do you talk about things you have no idea what you're talking about? That's not what a market failure is. So then why do you pretend to stand a system? Nope, that's not what a market failure is. Can I have the country a virgin? Can you use the word in the sentence? Yeah, no, a market collapse is different than a market failure. In economics, it's a situation defined by an inefficient distribution of goods or services in the free market. In market failures, the individual incentive for rational behavior do not lead to rational outcomes for the group. So, treating healthcare as a commodity inherently has a whole bunch of market failures. You want me to explain to you why? An example would be inelastic demand leads inherently to market failures because, and this is true, you need healthcare, which creates an inelastic demand. There's no way around it, okay? You can't choose to not have your healthcare, right? So, inelastic demand creates market failures, right? Because these companies would charge you whatever they want because at the end of the day, you need it. Do you know what another market failures for healthcare and why it doesn't work? Asymmetric information. That means the consumer does not have access to all the information that the provider does. Therefore, that creates market failures. There are presence of externalities. Do you know what a negative externality is? Do you know what a negative externality is? The lack of healthcare in this country creates negative externalities because, and this is true, a workforce that is unable to have access to good healthcare can't work. They can't produce. Did we scare them away? Yeah, they're probably like furiously googling all the stuff that I'm talking about. Like, this is what I mean by you have no idea what you're talking about. If that's the case, that's okay. And that's okay. Because quite often there's a lot of, or I should say, there are a lot of things that I have no idea about. But you know what? I choose to investigate before I talk and open my mouth. Okay? If only we had some kind of giant communication device, perhaps a massive network of interconnected computers that could share and exchange information, because perhaps we could index this web so that we could somehow search and retrieve information that quickly and easily. Yeah, I just wish. It's like a pipe dream, dude. I don't know what you're talking about, Octosquiddies. Yeah, should our healthcare and well-being be based on how much money we can spend on it? No, because that is inherently inefficient. That is inherently a bad way of administering that healthcare. Not knowing is okay until they use their favorite thing they know nothing about to justify their voting habits. True. There's no convincing these people about ending for-profit healthcare. It's literally implemented in other countries and they still don't get it. Yeah, well, they don't want to get it. They don't want to get it. My whole point of even addressing this person is because I think that they're a true believer. I think that they're a true believer in the libertarianism, and I think that maybe they can go and question themselves and ask themselves, like, wait, do I really know what I'm talking about here? And follow-up question, it turns out, and this is true, there are more people other than myself out here in this world. Just food for thought, you know? If you don't know what you're talking about, it's okay. Figure it out. Find out.
The Department of Interior auctioned off 2 sites. One of the locations that he's actually considering building offshore wind farms is quite near me. It's in Big Sur. So he's having the wind farms be off of Big Sur, and then the energy
and I asked too many questions. No such thing.
Into Morro Bay. I talked to Mike about different types of offshore wind turbines that might be deployed in different areas, and what are some of the different pros and cons of this.
Like, at the end of the day, my whole entire point is that how could you stand a system you don't even fully understand? How could you dislike a system you don't even understand? You're just going by feelies. Maybe you should address that.
Form of energy generation. I did a little while ago do a video on offshore wind, but this chat is a little more
recognizing how much you don't know and not being insulted by your lack of knowledge is a hurdle. True.
Quality on my part. Still working on how to improve the video quality for like video chat content. Before we get started, this video is sponsored by Divine Consulting. Divine is a leading provider in atmospheric science, high performance computing, and cybersecurity for U.S. government agencies. Divine provides the manpower, critical knowledge, and tools for agencies to effectively and efficiently pursue their missions. For more information about Divine Consulting and to learn about how you too could be of service to the government agencies, check out their website.
Ben Shapiro is wrong. Facts indeed do care about my feelings. True.
website at divineco.com. That's DEVINECO.com. You must be a U.S. citizen to apply. Thank you, Divine, for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the chat with Mike.
I am a huge fan of offshore wind in particular. I'm a complete nerd for it ever since I took a class in college where we talked about different forms of energy generation. And I learned about offshore wind and how amazing the potential is for it. And I just was like, wow, what an opportunity. So I guess, can you go ahead and basically explain why it's such a cool form of renewable energy?
The big advantage of offshore wind turbines is there's sort of two big advantages. One, the wind field offshore generally is more consistent than the wind on land.
True.
Generally, for any given meteorological situation, the winds are going to be stronger offshore, away from the frictional effect of the ground. Usually over land, you go through a diurnal cycle where it gets hot during the day, the ground heats up and the winds are kind of strong during the day. Then it cools down at night, the boundary layer becomes very stable, kind of cut off from the upper atmosphere. And so the winds tend to die out at night. So you have that daily or diurnal cycle in the winds over land, but you don't have that over the sea. There's very little variation in the sea's over temperature diurnally. And so the wind at night is pretty much like the wind during the day, and it's generally much more consistent and also generally, stronger than the wind over the land. So that's one big advantage. The second big advantage is you can transport the turbines to the site by sea. And that's huge because you can make the blades much larger. There's a limit to how big you can make them. No one has figured out how to make the blades in more than one piece. If someone figured out how to make them in sections and put them together, that'd be a game changer, but they haven't been able to figure out how to do that. They undergo a lot of stress. Those blades are, they're so large that the tip is moving typically about 200 miles an hour. And there's a lot of centrifugal force on them going around. They weigh about 60 tons on these really big offshore wind turbines. They're far too large to transport on land. The turbines on land have kind of reached their maximum point at about 2.5 megawatts. And you just can't make the blades any bigger because you can't transport them on the highway. You just can't exit, you just can't do it. And so the land-based or onshore turbines have kind of maxed out at about 2.5 megawatts. That's kind of industry standard now. But the sky.
But I don't stream. Oh, I apologize. I thought you did for some reason.
Right at the seaport. That's what they do. For example, at Saint Nazaire, France, that's where the GE plant is. Their factory is right there. And
I really worry about the seabirds. I think they addressed that. But yes, that is a valid concern.
Open up the factory door and there's the ship right there. And they just roll it out of the ship and they take it where it needs to go. And bigger is better because the power of a wind turbine is directly proportional to the rotor swept area. So, think the rotor going around, there's that circle, And as the turbine gets bigger, the blades get bigger. Think about the area of that circle. Well, pi r squared is what we learned about the area of a circle. Where in this case, the r is the blade length. So if you double the blade length, you get 2 squared or 4 times as much power out of that turbine. If you triple the blade length, you get 9 times as much power. It's even better than that because as the turbines are getting bigger, they're going higher into the atmosphere and the winds are generally increasing higher in the atmosphere.
I never thought about that part. It's just so interesting. Like it's actually playing with all the cool parts of the atmospheres, particularly over the ocean, which just lends itself to such an enormous amount of power.
It's also less likely that they will hit birds if they're up there in the higher ends of the atmosphere, right? Man, I don't know anything about this. Well, that's why we're here.
One of the key parameters on any wind turbine is something called the capacity factor, usually in percent. And it's the ratio of the maximum power that the turbine can produce in optimum conditions to the long-term average. For onshore turbines, that's typically about 30 to 40%. But for offshore turbines, it's typically about 60%. So they're just much more efficient. A lot of that, of course, is the wind field is more consistent offshore, but also because they're bigger, they're reaching higher in the atmosphere, they're just more consistent. So you get better performance out of the offshore wind turbines.
Why hasn't offshore wind been utilized? Like what has been holding back offshore wind from being developed in
policy,
the US?
money?
That's a great question. I don't know. I really have the answer to it. The US certainly has been lagging behind. If you look at other countries, UK is number one. As of 2020, they had 10 gigawatts of offshore wind, and the US is in 13th place. And we have only 42 megawatts right now of operational offshore wind. It's off the East Coast. There's 2 wind farms there. What's held it back? Well, that's a good question. I mean, you could say some of it could be regulatory, because of course the regulatory aspect comes into play. The Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, which comes under the Department of the Interior, has to approve, leasing of it, and then ultimately approve for, licensing and all of that. So that may have been an issue with, the prior president was not a fan of wind power in general. And so I'm sure that held it back, for the last 4 years.
That's a very nice way of putting it, but sure.
Maybe it's the fact that we have a lot of onshore resource available, and we've right now the U.S. has about in excess of 40 gigawatts of onshore.
That's right, Agave.
wind.
Yep.
And maybe people felt, well, we should build out that onshore wind first. UK doesn't have that much land, so they're probably looking. Japan doesn't have that much land. We have a lot of land, and we got a lot of wind turbines in the Midwest, so that might be part of it. But as you know, the Biden administration is making a big push for offshore wind now, and they're going great guns. And their goal is 30 gigawatts of offshore wind by 2030, and that's very achievable. And they're pushing for 7 major projects, 7 major wind farms. And you total that all up, it's actually more than
That's
30
hilarious.
gigawatts. So I think they're really on track, and they're pushing hard for it.
Wow. How many homes could 1 gigawatt power or 1 megawatt power?
I like to think in terms of megawatts. So 1 megawatt, which is 1 million watts, is 650 homes. So a gigawatt is 1,000 times that.
Wow.
So,
that's a lot. You said something about how much capacity overall the U.S. has along its coastlines.
The capacity, if you look at the actual capacity along all 3 coasts, and Department of Interior has studied that. As a
I
practical matter,
wish I cared, Fest and Choi. I wish I cared.
We have an EEZ which goes out 200 miles, and legally we could develop it out there. But as a practical matter, you want to keep them within about 50 miles from shore. If you look at that zone around the coast here, you find there's enough potential there to actually double the amount of electricity we have on the grid right now. We have about a half a terawatt. It's a trillion watts, half a terawatt of electricity on the grid now. Out of the wind resource out there, we could extract about a terawatt, a trillion watts. So now I'm not sure. I don't think that's going to happen. And there would be issues of what's going to be the impact on fishing and so forth. I mean, there are issues here. But the fact of the matter, there is a lot of resource out there. There's a lot of resource out there, and if it's done smartly, it certainly can be safely and properly taken advantage of.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead and start with the different forms of offshore wind, right? Because right now on the East Coast, one of the reasons why it started on the East Coast was because the East Coast drops off more gradually.
That's exactly right.
So they are able to do fixed wind farms.
That's right.
So that's one of the options. But floating wind farms is another option, which is why suddenly this coast is getting looked at. So can you explain the different forms of
Yeah, that's a very good
anchorage?
point. The East Coast has the broad continental shelf. Same thing in the Gulf of Mexico. In California, we drop off very fast. We have a very narrow continental shelf. So there are basically 2 different classes of floating wind farm, as you point out. There's the fixed bottom and then the floating. Fixed bottom are just embedded. Their towers are embedded into the bottom. And there are different sort of substructures there, but ultimately they're embedded into the bottom. And that only works down to about 60 meters depth. And most of the wind farms that are out there on the East Coast now are even shallower, like about 30 meters depth. That's not a player for the West Coast, because it's, the Morro Bay farm, which would be about 20, 30 miles out, is going to be about 1,000 meters deep. It drops off so fast. So you can't do the fixed bottom. So you're led to floating wind farms. Now, they're in terms of global wind power, only a pretty small fraction globally. I think it's only about 5% of wind power is offshore wind power. So it's already pretty low. Mm-hmm. But the vast majority of that is fixed bottom. The fraction that's floating is way small. So it's like a 10%. It's really, really down low.
It's a newer technology, right?
Yeah. The turbines themselves are pretty much the same. It's the substructure that's different. And there's sort of 3 different types of substructure for floating turbines. One is called tension leg platform. And I don't think that's going to come into very much of play. It's somewhat problematic because the turbine is actually unstable until it's moored in place. And I think there's a limit to how deep you can go with those as well. The advantage of tension leg platform is once you put it in place, it's right there. It's not going to move around. Mm-hmm. The other 2 forms are going to move around. They're anchored to the bottom, but they're floating. And they use like a catenary mooring, which is the lines come down and splay way out. And so there's something called the watch circle. As the winds change, the turbine actually drifts around, just like a buoy, like a moored buoy out there. And in the case of the Morro Bay farm, and a typical big wind farm, the turbines would be about a mile apart, and they would drift around, about a quarter of a mile, depending on the wind direction. So they move around. And there's sort of 2 different structures there. One is called the spar buoy. Spar buoy is just a straight cylinder and it comes down really deep. The great thing about the spar buoy is it can take huge waves and huge winds. If you're going to put a wind farm in the Gulf of Alaska, or you're going to put a wind farm in the Gulf of Mexico, where you expect to be run over by a hurricane every couple of years, you're going to want to use that spar buoy because it can handle, the huge waves and the huge winds, no problem. The disadvantage of the spar buoy is it has a really deep draft, and you have to have a really deep port. If you're going to assemble it at the dockside, which is what you really want to do, you have to have a really deep draft port to, tow it out to the site. Most places that, the draft is too deep. They can't handle that. I don't think Port Hueneme, which is where I think Morro Bay will be staged out of, I don't think they can handle the spar buoy. Right. So the third design is called semi-submersible, and I'm almost certain that's what Morro Bay will use. Semi-submersible is a lot like a mini version of a floating oil rig. In fact, it's pretty much the same technology, pretty much the same design, but it's smaller. And there's actually kind of a nice thing about that. And that is, as we phase down fossil fuel use, start phasing out offshore oil development, the people who will be displaced from their jobs in the offshore oil business can immediately transition over to supporting offshore wind turbines, because it's the same technology, the same kind of skills you need to build a floating offshore oil platform, or the kind of skills you need and infrastructure and so forth to build a semi-submersible floating wind turbine. So I think that's a good thing.
So let's talk about the different locations then that Biden is thinking about for his wind farm.
Okay, we're gonna have to probably continue this tomorrow. It is interesting as well because Scotland, we don't necessarily have Greens in power. We have 7 seats out of 129, but they did play a big part in Scotland's independence campaign and got a lot of traction in Parliament. An interesting example to show that you don't have to control the levers of power to make a difference, just the right voices in the right place is true. All renewables have a cooling effect, slowing wind and water and absorbing UV. Not sure it's enough, but in a matter, it's in the right direction. Folks, it is 11:28. I do have to get going. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys hanging out today. Thank you, Heat. Thank you, Spread It Forward. I appreciate you guys. Thank you all for the new follows. Thank you to the Benjamin P. Dixon Show for the massive raid. Appreciate that. Thank you, Jamtoon. Folks, if you don't already, make sure you follow the Benjamin P. Dixon Show. Make sure you follow Jamtoon and show support for your local news organizations. And please, as much as you can, talk about the climate crisis. As always, stay safe. Please take care of each other. Oh, and of course, on your way out, don't forget to, hit the follow button. It does help us out. It does help us out. Spread the word far and wide that this is the chillest place to be for news and politics, Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Join us for Saturday Catterdays, noon Eastern Time. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that, Animal Mother. Take care, everyone. May you have all ADT's patience with trolls and children, Drew, and people who have no idea what definitions and words mean. As always, stay safe, take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya. Alright, folks, we're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. See ya.